Okay, good morning and welcome to week 3. And this is the first live lecture for this week, the only live lecture. Hopefully you guys are in a good position at this point going forward with feeling comfortable with the programs and getting the feedback from me to push your work further. We're going to be adding 2 more really interesting projects this week that will definitely allow you to get to know the software a little bit better in design and also Illustrator. So this will also allow you to prep your files for print. Some necessary stuff going on in not only in the discussion but also within your files that you'll be working on this week. And that's kind of the important part of what we do as designers. Not only do we have to come up with really creative concepts and effective designs to communicate visually, but we also have to make sure that we are successful at launching our projects, getting it ready for print. And that includes, converting any colors that need to be converted, saving out as different file formats, paying attention to different ways of folding a piece depending on what you're working on. There's so much that goes into it. Sometimes I think the best way to learn is whenever you're actually working in the field, and that's kind of where I was too. I mean, you have to understand there's so much to learn in the printing aspect of it that you will definitely do so if you're working in the field. You'll be contacting printers, and they will be giving you information as well that may be new to you, and that's just part of the process. All right, let's get started here. It is Wednesday. We're meeting a little early today because my schedule is a little crazy. I apologize. My weeks have been kind of changing at the last minute, so I have been trying to be kind of letting you guys know of the changes going on with our lecture schedule. So I apologize for this being so early. But hopefully, because we are online, that you guys are making this work for your own schedules and listening to the recording if you cannot make it live. And that's kind of the pro of being an online student, for sure, just making it work for your schedule. Okay, we will also be meeting tomorrow evening for our for the multi-session if you are able to. It's not mandatory, and that's from 6 to 8 p.m. Mountain Time. So if you have questions, need extra help, I will be in there. Come on in and we can definitely check it out. All right, so what we're going to do today is on the agenda here, announcements. We're going to talk about assignment 3, assessment 3, and then print production process. We're going to be actually showing you this today and going through the process so that you're understanding a little bit more of what is involved in the process. Just make sure you're meeting all the deadlines here. I know I saw a lot of late work being submitted that I have not gotten to yet, but I will be getting to in the next couple of days. So if you turn anything in past the due date recently and I have not looked at it yet and graded it yet, please be patient. I will be looking at that today and tomorrow. So just make sure you're getting that in. All assignments and assessments are due by Saturday for full credit. Please let me know, if anything is going on with you, a situation. I can be a little bit more flexible with you depending upon the situation, and if you tell me as soon as possible. Week 4 assignments, just remember, next week cannot be turned in late. Your original discussion post is due by Wednesday by midnight Mountain Time. 2 responses to student discussions are due by Saturday. And this still holds true for the new packback discussion area there. So definitely make sure you're hitting those due dates there. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually before I get into here, I'm going to go into our Canvas just to kind of take a general look before we get right into all the nitty-gritty stuff. Week 3 here. Go ahead and click on week 3. I just want to go over some of the learning objectives that we are going to be accomplishing this week. So we're going to, for week 3, differentiate between spot, Pantone, RGB, and CMYK color models. We kind of talked about this last week too, so we'll get into a little bit more detail. We're going to distinguish the similarities and differences between raster images and vector graphics. We're going to distinguish the differences between Pantone, RGB, and CMYK gamut. Set up margins, gutters, and bleeds in a document for correct pre-press output. Create a package print-ready pre-press file, and create a print-ready PDF. Okay, so that's kind of a little bit of an intro of what we're going to be doing here as far as what we should be going over this week. So lots of things going on. Some of them are kind of pulled over from last week. But let's talk about the printing process. There's a lot that goes into this, okay? So when you're ready to, you have a project we've been working so hard on, so, you know, sometimes it is mandatory that you call and talk to, get bids from printers who may be able to print whatever that you're going to have printed. You know, if it's a special piece that needs to be printed on special paper, or, you know, it's a package design that needs, you know, special folds, you need to make sure that you contact a vendor, a printing vendor, before, you know, starting any of this process, so that you know they can do it. In that process, some of the things that you will do is based on this schedule here. Sorry, my little girl just got up. Okay. So in that process, here are the 5 steps that you would go through, you know, pretty much in line here with a final project. So you're going to define the project for step 1 and gather all requirements. Just like I said, you're going to make sure you have all of what you need within that project when you sit down with the client, when it needs to be printed, budget, schedule. You know, if it's just a flat piece that's being printed out, you know, it's a little easier. But if it's a packaged piece, it needs to be talked about in terms of, you know, paper and all of that stuff. And that kind of goes down below here. But discuss output quality and initial design ideas. Okay, so you're going to be getting all of that, defining the project in the beginning. And, you know, that's something that you definitely could also tell the printer once you kind of talk with them about, you know, if it's appropriate to have them print your pieces and if it works. Select your vendor for step 2. So you're going to select, you might go through a couple printers that you get bids from. So evaluate printers and service providers. You may get a better deal with somebody else, or maybe some other vendor can do what the other vendor can't do in terms of certain folding or print methods. Establish a process. So you want to make sure that, you know, there's a process behind whatever you're having printed. You want to make sure that that process is put into place so that you're saving time and energy and maybe paper. So, you know, talk with the printer. They will help you kind of decide how to set things up. Choose the elements of the project, so paper and ink. Usually you have a print vendor too, so it's not just a printing vendor. There are paper vendors out there, and they will contact you if you contact them, and they will show you. They will meet up with you and come into your place of business or email you and mail you samples of paper. And that's important because maybe not email, but seeing the printed examples, like the little sample pieces of paper, you can actually touch and feel and see if it's right for your project. So selecting those paper printers are also just as important as the press vendors. So you'll kind of get an idea, because sometimes that's the most powerful part of the piece, especially if you're going with a very minimalistic type of a look and you're just putting maybe a logo on there. Maybe the paper and the ink is kind of what speaks to the target audience. Step 3, pre-press and design. So assign elements of the job. Implement design, craft the project, prep files for output, and review the design. So this is kind of where you're ready to go. You're designing the piece, and you're breaking everything down and prepping it for output. We're going to be talking about that today. And then review the design. Step 4, hand off the proof. So discuss printing issues. You know, you might be sending the proof to the printer, and they might be getting back to you and saying, hey, this needs to be changed. You know, maybe you have low-res images in there, or maybe you have the wrong orientation of what's on the pages based on, you know, how they're going to put it on the press. Maybe there's nothing in there indicating where the bleeds are, you know. So they will let you know. They will come back to you and say, we need this, 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 and this. Hopefully, unless they just go ahead and do it and then it gets all screwed up. But, you know, that's happened before. But typically, pre-press proofs, printers will definitely, you know, let you know if there's anything going on with the file that is incorrect. They will also let you know what files that they accept. You know, sometimes it's on their website too. Different printers accept different files sometimes, and there's different specs related to that as well. So it's really important to make sure that the printer that you end up going with, either you call and discuss this with them before so that you have everything ready to go and you're not backtracking, or, you know, you're going to the website and getting that information if they have that available. They can send you a proof as well. So let's say you are working for, you know, a pretty big company and they want to make sure that their logo looks the same across the board and they have it in Pantone colors or maybe CMYK colors. That's the most iffy one as far as keeping the color consistent. But say they didn't want to pay for the Pantone ink, so they decided to go CMYK, but they wanted their logo to stay the same color all across the board. You could have the printer send you a proof, just one proof. You pay a little bit for it, but sometimes companies definitely do that just to ensure that the print is good and everything's good. And they'll send you that just to give you, you know, an idea of what it will look like. That way you have a chance to change anything if you need to. Send files to film, plate, pre-press, so you'll definitely send those to the printer when need be, and that's pretty much what your files are setting up for your projects, what you're going to be doing this week. Establish proofing method. You know, maybe it's just through, maybe it's a press check. You know, I've done a lot of press checks, and that's if you're in the area that you can go in and they have a set time and you go in and take a look. And sometimes the clients like to meet you there if they're real strict. I actually worked for Alcoa, well, for a design agency, and we had a client, Alcoa, which is one of the big aluminum companies in Pittsburgh. And we worked on their benefit guides, and in there were just booklets and booklets of benefit explanations. So it was very copy heavy, but they were very picky on, you know, how everything kind of fell in terms of the copy. So they wanted somebody to be there at the press check to actually give a second eye along with the designer, so that if they saw anything, they could definitely call it out and we can change it. I mean, literally going from one sentence to the next on each page. So it was pretty intense. And usually it's not like that. But with Alcoa, since they're a bigger company and it was dealing with their health benefit side, they wanted to make sure everything was spot on. So we would sit there for hours and while they kind of proofed every single page and every single line. And then they would sign off, so that when they sign off, that means if there's anything that may have been missed, it's not the designer's fault. So that's kind of a nice thing to have. But press checks typically, you know, if you're there and you're able to go, you just kind of look at what's coming out on the press. You can sign off on the sheet as yourself as a designer. The client doesn't necessarily have to be there. And then, you know, at least you know everything's going as planned, hopefully. Okay, step 5, proof and print. Check placement of graphics and copy. Again, we just talked about review press proofs and observe assembly. And so, you know, they'll give you a tour of the printing press, which is kind of neat. You know, all places are different too, but they kind of give you the. It's kind of neat just to see what options are out there when they do give you that tour. You know, sometimes different presses do different things. So when you're more aware of what is available, you as a designer can push yourself for maybe different looks and different ways of printing as well. So that's the printing process step from step 1 to step 5 in a general aspect. Like I said, when you go through it, it's a little different, but you get the idea and sense of what designers do when they go through the process. So there's a lot that goes into it, not just you setting up files and creating this wonderful, effective design for a client. There's a lot of back-end stuff just like this, getting it ready for print. So sometimes we forget about that. We want to save time and money in order to, especially for the client. So knowing this stuff ahead of time, you can at least be aware of certain things as you're prepping your file. So you're kind of thinking ahead all the time as a designer. Okay, so defining your project, again, we just went through this. Specifications or requirements, budget, quality, quantity, longevity, schedule. This is defining the project step 1, proofs, revision, delivery, design concept. Selecting vendors, we were just talking about this too. Your company or printer will most likely have a setup for a bid sheet, a request for quote, so RFQ. That's typically how, if you're working for a company, that's how they do it. Some details may vary, but usually the following information need to be included. So contact information, page count, binding, paper type and weight, color, job information, any spot colors, and quantity. So those things are very important to know beforehand so that when you're sitting down or putting out a bid, that's what you'll fill out. You'll need to plan out these details with your printer so you know their capabilities. You can also ask for comparison bids in different materials and quantities and from different vendors. So you might know that, okay, this bid's going to come in high because I have it on real high quality paper. But what if it's on a lower quality paper and we're not using as many Pantone colors? Can we have a quote with that just to see where we're at? And then, presenting it to the client might be a better option, so they have at least 2 options budget-wise to choose from. Working with your printer, other details you will have to work out in cooperation with your printer are timelines, so deadlines for file submission, proofs, press checks, and production and eventual shipping, price per sheet, complete job. So each company has different methods and processes. This is only a rough overview. Sometimes you'll need to add information later in the process as well. So working with your printer is a team effort. It's important to build a relationship through good communication. And printers like to woo you in, just kind of give you a little heads up. I've worked for several advertising agencies, and printers will take usually the top people out, to do stuff for dinner, and I don't know. They kind of like to woo you in, just like paper vendors. They want you to stick with them, so they'll do some hard work to keep you on their, having them print for you. So they'll try to keep you as a loyal customer for sure. The printing process, pagination, imposition, and signatures. Sometimes we have to worry about this if you're working on a specific bind of a project. So if you have multiple pages, your layout program InDesign will order the pages as you view them in finished binding. This includes a front and back page and 2 page spreads. To utilize both fronts and backs of each page in a spine-bound print job, you need to have a multiple of 4 for your page count, or some pages will end up blank. So, you have to have at least a certain amount of pages for it to work if you're going to have something bound. And that just means when you bind something, that means you're pulling it together. It's being printed and bound in some way. It's being folded, so there's multiple pages. There's different kinds of folds and different kinds of bindings. Okay, why page counts for printing are multiples of 4. So why is that? So during printing, your pages are printed on large sheets of paper and holds, depending on your book size, 8, 16, or 32 pages. All are multiples of 4. You can see this large sheet of paper. Actually, I don't have the the thing here, maybe it's on the next page, known as a parent sheet with 8 pages printed on both sides. So you have 16 total, so 8 on one side, 8 on the other. After printing, these sheets are folded and inserted into your book as a whole unit. If your page count was not a multiple of 4, you would be left with blank pages throughout your book. So here's the example here. So you have the fold number 1, 1, 2, 2, 4, 6, 8 on one side and 8 on the other. Fold number 2, fold number 3. So it's kind of going step by step on how the printer would fold this if you weren't having it, well, yeah, if you were having it bound in some way too. So after binding, 3 sides are trimmed to open the pages at the very end there. Kind of neat to see the process. It consists, so pagination, imposition, and signature. So it exists in the arrangement of the printed product pages on the printer sheet in order to obtain faster printing, simplify binding, and reduce paper waste. Imposition is one of the fundamental steps in the pre-press printing process, and your printer will set this up from your bid and file. Most publications are produced by printing 8 pages on one side of a large paper sheet, then 8 more on the other side, so 16-page signature. You can see here again, this is another way of seeing it and folding it with a no score here. So that means it's not being cut, it's just being folded on the top. See that red line on the first graphic in the middle, and then when it's folded, you can see that red line is at the top and it's not cut at all, it's just a fold. Bleeds and trim. So, you know, you've heard of bleeds before, hopefully, and trim. So to accommodate the slight variations that will happen as the sheet is fed through the printer and the pages are trimmed, you need to set up your pages with a bleed. Your printer will determine what your bleed should be. Usually it's 1/8, so 0.125. It's also important that your design allows for the space the binding will take up in the spine. You know, so you want to make sure, here's some examples down there, standard, digest, landscape, and flyer, different sizes here, and the safe zone, the trim line. When you're on press, sometimes that press, you know, depending on how many copies are being printed out, how many prints are being printed out, sometimes it shifts. So that's why it's important to have bleeds. If you have anything along the trim line, images or type, you're not seeing any type of weird white gaps there. Bindings, you have different bindings. We were talking about this before. 3-ring is one of them, so 3 punch holes in the left side of a printed page. The common format for 3-ring binders is one of them. A spiral binding, so coils through the top or left margins of printed pages. You have a saddle stitch, so 2 or more staples inserted at the fold. And then you have a perfect binding, all signatures put together, then ground down and paper covered glued around spine. There's a link here, and this is good for choosing the right binding type here, Designer's Insight resources. Let me try to get that up here so you guys can at least see it. You might not be able to click on the link, so hold on one second. As I type here, Designers Insights.com. Choosing the right binding type. Here we go. Let's see if I got it, folks. There we go. Yeah, so definitely, you know, and I can put this in announcements. This is a good website to bookmark because, you know, obviously it helps you choose the right binding type. So based on the function of the document, the number of pages it contains, and the printing budget, is kind of where you'll can choose which binding option is best. So you can see here's 8 saddle stitch. That's what it would look like with 3 staples. The loop stitched, the stab stitched or side stitched, sewn bound, perfect bound, tape bound, screw bound, hardcover, case bound, plastic grip, So there's just so many different types. And then it goes into a little bit more detail down here, which is kind of nice. And it tells you how expensive they are based on this little dollar sign here. So $1 sign would be cheaper, and more dollar signs would be the most expensive. Here's the anatomy of a hardcover book. This is kind of interesting too. So you have a nice little diagram here pointing out each piece of this hardcover book. So definitely, you know, have that saved in your bookmarks. I will, like I said, if I hopefully remember to place that link into the announcements, you guys can have that, you know, accessible. I can type it in the chat area, but, you know, obviously you can't access that in the recording. All right, so some projects may be folded instead of bound. That requires that you think carefully about how the different sides of the sheet will flow together once they are folded. The best way to envision this is to make a physical mock-up and lay out your document accordingly. There are also templates available that you can use to help you lay out a folded printed document. Definitely making mock-ups. We did a lot of that in where I worked. That just really gives you an idea of how your piece works, especially if it's multiple pages, how everything looks. So you need to adjust anything, you know, beforehand. And it also is a nice way to show your client what it's going to look like before it goes to print, maybe even the printer, so you can explain certain things, especially if it's a package design. But definitely a good part of the process. Types of folding here. So there's different types of folding. We just looked at bindings. So here's foldings, different types of folding if you have a multiple page document. So 4-page single fold, you can see what it looks like. 6-page concertina fold, looks like an accordion. 6-page standard gate fold, it opens up like a gate. 8-page right angle fold or French fold, has a fold in the middle and then on the top. 8-page parallel double fold, and so on and so forth. So you might be talking to the printer and you might be discussing these things, and this is the right words for each of these. So if you want to be clear on what you need, or maybe get a quote on, or even the client, you might say, I think this would look best as a 10-page concertina fold. And you can mock it up and kind of show them how it would work, you know, if you think that would work best. So it's good for you to set up your files beforehand too, to know how this is folding, so that you're not going back and adjusting the size and where the folds are. The printing process. So you have weights, color, coding, and finishes to think about. So there's a lot that goes into it. Paper, you know, you have different weights of paper, text and cover stock, many types of measurements. So again, sometimes you'll get these printer books from printers that you can feel little samples of, you know, touch it and feel it, see what they feel like and look like, and they can send you samples of them as well. Color, more than one white, so you might have yellow through white, different types of whites. Just like in painting your walls, there's just different types of colors and different hues. You have the option between uncoated versus coated, which is, you know, a matte versus gloss. And those definitely show differently depending on the look that you want. So you might want to definitely check out what the effects are from both. Sometimes gloss is definitely great for covers in certain cases, but maybe not on the inside if you have a lot of information, because it's a little harder to read body copy if you have a lot of body copy, because of the reflection part of it makes it harder to read. Finishes, texture, or smooth. Oh, and going back to that, you can have a cover that's gloss and then the inside that's not coated. So you can have a mixture of paper in there. Finishes, texture, or smoothness. So you might want some texture maybe on the cover, maybe more smooth on the inside, so that it's not overwhelming tactile wise. All right, software and files. So PDF files are the standard for print job submissions. In Photoshop, image editing and is pixel-based. So Photoshop is considered a raster-dependent program. So that means it uses pixels to comprise of the image. Illustrator is a vector program. So it's a vector based on vectors. And it's based on mathematical equations lines to come up with, you know, shapes and graphics. So you want to make sure that you're doing logos and graphics and working on any type of type within Illustrator so that it's not pixelated. And Photoshop is more for manipulating images, imagery, color correcting, and stuff like that. InDesign is combination of text and images, superior for double-sided and multiple page documents, printed packages, print-ready files. So it's good. It's a good end-all program. So you might be, a lot of times designers will do a lot of image manipulation in Photoshop at first, pull, the logo in Illustrator, and then everything will be pulled into InDesign at the end to lay out the pages and be the end-all program for finalizing the files. You might be going back and forth depending on the changes, but typically that's the method that designers do. Acrobat also has some pre-flight capabilities with PDF files that get your file ready for press. So, just a lot of information to think about, and some of this stuff won't make sense right away, but once you're going through the process, you'll say, oh yeah, I remember we went over this in this class, just because, you guys aren't in the actual process of printing. So we only review what we can until you actually go through the process yourself. Okay, so just be more aware of that. What we can go over is getting your file ready for print on that side with your projects. All right, so with that being said, let's take a look. Before we get into the assignment 3, let's take a look at your discussion this week, because I want to make sure everybody is good with that. I want to skip that here. Hopefully you guys are all enjoying the Packback discussion forum. I haven't really heard much from anybody, but hopefully you are definitely enjoying this new way of discussing with your peers, maybe learning more in the process. Okay, so I'm going to have you guys read through the background information. I am not going to read this out loud to you guys. I think that's a lot of information you guys can definitely read on your own. But I would read through this, listen to the short video here so you understand how color gamuts and how they work, what they are. I'm just going to read through the prompt here, and then we'll go on. So sometimes customers do not understand the need to maintain the proper files and formats for the material. For instance, a customer asks you to create a billboard using the image of the logo copied from the company website. The customer does not have the original file, so they don't have the native file. How do you approach accomplishing the creation of the billboard? Now, remember, it's a billboard, so the logo has to be pretty big. You might consider, will the logo work for what you are required to produce? Maybe they gave you a really large file, really large image of whatever that's not the original. Maybe it would work. Most likely it probably isn't going to work if they're taking it off a website because it's already low res. It's probably small. What would the issues be? What do you think the issues would be? What do you tell the client? How do you communicate with them that, hey, this may not work? How does this affect your color gamut? Because it's on a website. Remember, whenever images are on a website, the color mode they're in is RGB. And when you print for a billboard, you're going to be converting to CMYK. So you might have some color issues there. Going back, what do you tell the client? Okay, how do you communicate with them that this isn't going to work? And a lot of the times you have to educate the client in a professional manner without insulting them. You have to make sure they don't know, but you do most of the time. You might get a client who understands, but you want to make sure that they understand why it is that you're asking for the native file. If they don't have it, the steps to making a successful logo for the billboard are needed. All right, so at a minimum, you must submit to the Packback community page URL. So one main question that includes a valid question of relevance to raster images in vector graphics, or color gamut and its impact or implications for your life or future career. So think about some good questions that relate to raster and vector graphics or color gamut. Okay, so this is kind of what that call out is for. A discussion of the questions of 150 plus words, explaining your thoughts behind the questions and guidance for other students to be responding, and 1 APA citation and reference. You also have to reply to 2 different peers with 50 plus words. Okay. You might want to research color gamut. You might, this video will help you understand what color gamut is. You might want to research more about raster and vector graphics before formulating your question. Think about what you're curious about. Is there something that you've always had a question about in regards to that you want to bring up in your discussion? So that's kind of the key thing. Read through this background first. I didn't go over that, but definitely check that out. All right, let me know if you have any questions in regards to the discussion. All right. Going forward here, so assignment 3, your color in InDesign. You guys are going to be designing a trifold brochure, and InDesign must be used. So you must incorporate the following: at least 3 photos, your final color logo and palette, paragraph styles, all text from the file. So there's actually a text file in there, a document that you need to take from. The flat size is 9 inches by 11.875 inches, landscape formatted, 2-sided. Your margins are 1/4 inch, columns are 3, gutters are 0.5, bleed size 1/8, and then color space is CMYK. Don't forget, assignment has required text and graphics. So it's not like you're, pulling it from a different resource. This is given to you, and typically clients give you sometimes images and text to go in there. Don't forget submission requirements: print ready PDF, packaged in InDesign file and zip, and I'll show you how to do that. And then your required name as such. Okay, and then we'll go on with assessment 3 here. But let's take a look in Canvas, just the background details again, just kind of what I went over. But we'll take a look here. All right. All right, so we're going to be setting up margins, gutters, and bleeds in a document for correct pre-press output. We're going to create a packaged print-ready PDF pre-press file, and then you're going to create a print-ready PDF. So read through all of the background information. It's talking about the bleeds, the finish size, margins, gutter, all the things that we're going to be discussing here in the demo. But definitely check that out. I'm going to go right to the prompt here and read from here. So brochures can be very powerful marketing tools if handled in the correct way. It is important that your approach to the brochure maintains any corporate branding that has been established while making an impression on the target audience. Here are a few brochure design tips to help you begin your project. So know who your target audience is. This is the first part of the process. What is their age? What is their income? What role do they have in the family? Are they primarily male or female? What is important to them? Think about their personalities, their characteristics. The more you hone in on a specific age range and target audience, the more successful you will be at speaking to them visually. So this is part of the process. This is what you guys should be doing every start of a project, gathering that information and then putting it in your design brief. Spend considerable time designing the cover of your brochure. It is the reason a potential client will pick it up or pass it by. Sometimes what I like to do is I'll design everything but the cover. The cover will be last, and that will help me sum up what needs to be on the cover. It gets me into, okay, this is the style that I want, this is the mood that I'm setting, and that's just, that's a preference, but that's kind of how I do it sometimes. It helps me get into the notion of what the cover should look like after everything else is completed. Create a cohesive visual roadmap through your brochure, making it easy to follow and understand by using properly sized gutters, consistent margins, and a well thought out folding pattern. So, you never want to look at that stuff last and design it and then think, okay, well, now I have to make sure that this works based on the folds, because then you'll be spending a lot of time revising and it won't be as easy. Put first things first, lead with strength, and then give details. So you want to make sure you're leading with a nice, strong visual cover, and then, so that pulls them in, and then the details are on the inside. Use style sheets to maintain consistency within the type. Remember, there should be no more than 3 sizes and 2 fonts used in your brochure. Keep your colors consistent and few, no more than 2 or 3 colors total. Employ the big 4 design principles to create focal points, hierarchy, and unity within your design. Utilize a grid system to give you strong structure upon which to build. So you might want to plot that out before doing your actual brochure. All right, things that you must incorporate. At least 3 photos. Download the approved photos right here. So just go ahead and click on that. There's a nice folder that will pop up with multiple images that you can choose from. Take a look at the images, open it up, look at the orientations, the style, the look of them. You might flip through a few as you're placing them in just to see what works. But definitely download that. Go ahead and slide this on my desktop here. And then also, your final color logo palette should be incorporated, paragraph styles, and all text from this file. So go ahead and click on that and download that doc file so that you'll have the text from that file. So you should not be making up the text for this brochure, but it's nice. That's kind of nice. So everything that goes into the brochure text-wise should be taken from this Aqua text doc. Okay, I'm going to hide this here. Actually, let me save it on my desktop. So if it crashes on me, at least I have somewhere to go. Go ahead and make a folder for everything before doing all of this. So you're ready to go and everything's organized. Project specifications is, you want to make sure you're using InDesign for this project. Very important. Flat size is specified here. So what you'll do is you'll create your document based on this flat size. You'll have 2 sides, so you'll have 2 pages, and then folds are 4 by 9. Margins are 0.25, bleeds are 0.125, and color space is CMYK. Please review this week's readings and videos for a demonstration on how to set this up correctly using 6 separate pages for the panels. Okay, pre-press requirements. All images converted to CMYK. So once you're ready to go, you have to convert your images to CMYK. All images placed at correct resolution for print should be 300 pixels per inch, and I'll show you how to do that. Images not scaled below 80% or higher than 120. That means when you're placing the images into your brochure in InDesign, when they're placed in there, make sure, and I'll show you how to look for this, that you're not going below 80% in placement or over 120. There's reasons for that. You might have some resolution issues. The print might not come out as nice based on the percentages. All spot colors converted to CMYK, bleeds correctly implemented, margins and gutters properly positioned, and document packaged for print. We'll go through that. Name your file accordingly. Your InDesign file. Export the InDesign file to press quality PDF. Includes crops and bleeds. Note this is a different setting than print quality. Package the InDesign file. Note that, make sure that there are no errors in the report. If there are, fix them and repackage for submission, and I'll show you how to do that. Place the press quality PDF into the package folder and zip. Upload the zip file. Best practice, keep all your native files you use to create this brochure for possible revisions after this course is ended. You'll need them for your portfolio or capstone classes. So lots of stuff going on here. We'll go step by step in our in our demo here so that you kind of get an idea of how to approach the project. I'll show you how to get it ready for pre-press and for submission as well. All right, let me know if you guys have any questions with the assignment 3. And again, like I said, I'm going to be here tomorrow night. If you have issues, come on in. I'm going to take a 5-minute break before we go into the demo. Heat my coffee up here so my voice isn't as raspy. Take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll start the demo in InDesign for your assignment 3. Okay, looks like 5 minutes is up, so we're going to go ahead and start the demo here for your brochure. I might not complete the whole brochure, but you'll get a good idea of how to approach the project here. So let me share my screen. I'm going into InDesign, so I open up InDesign. Let me get all my settings here ready. If you go up here on the very top right of your InDesign navigation bar, you should see where it says Essentials. You can click on that. If it says Start, you can click on that too, and then maybe set it to Essentials again, or reset Essentials, or whatever settings that you want will clean up your palette area there. That's basically setting up the preferences on which you want to see all of your palettes on. Okay, so what you might want to do is actually go back to your assignment details and get all the information that you need to set this up. So project specifications that are listed in assignment 3, go ahead and have that open. You can take a screenshot of it, pull it into InDesign if you want. That tells you the flat size, the margins, the bleed size, and the color space to put set up your file in. Okay, so we're going to go up to File. I know you can't see my menu bar up here, but you're going to go up to, let me see, yeah, up to File, and you're going to start a new document. File, New Document. You want to make sure that your intent is a printed piece. You're going to have 2 pages. Uncheck the facing pages. We don't need that. We're not doing a book. And then page size, we want to make sure we go by the specs given in your project. So that would be, the width would be 11.875, and the height would be 9. Okay. The margins, so go all the way down to margins here. See how it says 0.5 as a default. We want that to be 0.325. So go ahead and click right before that 5 and put 325. If you click on this little link, it'll set all of them, top, bottom, right, left, to that same setting, which is what you want. Bleed. So I'm going to go down here to bleed and slug. We just want to change the bleed to 0.25. And again, hit that little link so that you're changing the top, bottom, left, and right for the bleed. The color space, we'll take a look at that. But this is pretty much how you should have your beginning specs set to. Click OK. This is what it'll look like. Let me zoom out here. So 2 pages. Your bleed is the red lines. That's any type of imagery that goes beyond the trim edge. And the trim edge, let me show you real quick. The trim edge, where a printer would trim, is right where the artboard meets the page. So this would be the trim edge. And then this is the 1/8 bleed given, so that if things shift on the press, you don't have a weird white gap here if there's an image going to the edge of your trim edge. The purple line is your margins. Those do not print. That's just for you to guide you. The color mode. So go up to, let's see here. It's different in every program. Color settings. So edit color settings. This is where you can actually set your calibration on your screen. Actually, we'll cancel that because that's not what we want. That's calibration. We are actually in RGB mode, but when we export out, we're going to export out as CMYK. So we'll worry about that when we're exporting, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, the next thing is we need, actually let me open up Photoshop while I'm talking to you guys, because we will be converting some of these images to CMYK and also checking out the resolution. That's what you guys should be doing too. All right, so make sure your rules are on. So go up to View in InDesign and, I'm sorry, yeah, is it View? Let's see, yes. View, and it should say, if they're not showing, it should say Show Rulers, and you can click on it. My rulers are showing, so I don't have to click on it. You can see the rulers on the top and at the bottom. And this will give you a good sense, you know, of the size of certain things. And then you can also click in there and pull guides out. So for this one, I'm going to pull out some guides here, actually. This was at 8. Okay, so this is where the folds will be, just a little bit before 4 and at 8 inches. That's kind of where the folds are. Okay. Do the same in here. And these guides do not print. They're just for you to go by here. All right, now I'm going to save this. Oops. Photoshop just opened up because I launched it. Sorry, I have a little delay because I'm opening up Photoshop as I'm doing this. Okay, DES114, assignment 3, oops, and my first and last name. This should be an InDesign file. Right down here, you'll see InDesign file. Click save and save that in the folder. I'm just saving on my desktop for now. Okay, so that's pretty much the pre-press requirements for the most part. We still have to choose the images that we want to put in there and then figure it out from there. Okay, so I downloaded all the images. Let me set up my margins. Let me show you how to do that. So go up to Layouts and Margins and Columns. And we're going to set this up for 3 columns. So where it says 1, we want 3. And we want the gutter to be 0.75 inches. And we want to do that for both pages. So you want to select both pages. Sorry about that. And then change them. So 3.75. So now I can adjust this a little bit better to be in the middle here. I knew I was a little off. So what this is showing you is where the fold will be, where the blue line is. Oops. And then where to put your text box. So if you're putting your text box, let me take your type tool. You want to start from one edge of your guide to the other and stay within these 2 purple lines so that you have enough margin space and where the fold is and also the trim line, okay? So all images, all type should be within this area here, okay? Save that. So that's important. Margins are important to set up. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I downloaded the images that's provided in the project. So I'm going to open up my Photoshop program. And I want you guys to do the same thing. Let me switch to Photoshop here. And I looked through all the images. Let me show you what the images look like here. If you guys can see this, but in the folder, the kayak photos, there should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I guess 14. So you have 14 images here to choose from. So go ahead and take a look. See what would work for your cover image and maybe the rest of your project here. Okay, and choose which one you think. You might go back and forth depending. When you decide, okay, say you want to use this on the cover, this image, click Open in Photoshop. Very important step that you guys want to make. We want to make sure that this is no longer in RGB. See, when I go up to Image, you guys can see, go up to Image on your menu bar and choose Mode, and you'll see it says RGB color. We want that to be CMYK color. So go ahead and click on CMYK. Click OK. Then go up to Image, Image Size. And this looks good. This is already set at 300 pixels per inch. The size looks good, so I don't even have to change that. If this said 72, which is a low res, we would need to change it, but that looks good. So click OK. I'm going to go File, Save As, and I'm going to name this Cover. And typically when you're ready to design something for print, you want to save it as a TIFF file. That will give you the best printed file. So no JPEGs, just a TIFF file. Okay, click OK. That looks pretty good. The next one would be maybe the kayak photo. Maybe I would use that for the background on the inside. So let me open that up. This one. Again, go up to image mode, switch to CMYK. Check out the image size, image size. That looks pretty good. And then I'm going to save as background front. Just put this in. Oh, I guess I could have put in that folder. And again, TIFF file. Click save, click OK. Okay, so that's the process. That's what you would do. It looks like the resolution is good for each of these when I open them up originally. I'm going to go back to InDesign, and I'm going to start designing the front cover here. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to choose the logo that you decided to go with that you think would work best for your project, okay? And then that's kind of what you're going to base the colors around as well as the images. The cover will be, and let me do a little visual example up here. Sometimes it's nice to see. So you don't have to do this. This is just visuals, a visual prompt for you guys so you can understand how this works. Let me do color white. You guys can see. Okay. So above each panel here, I'm kind of trying to show you what each of these panels are because it's flat. Because it's flat, sometimes we think, oh, the cover will start on the first panel, but that's not the case. Because it's flat and we're doing it in a printer spread, the front panel is actually on the very right. So your cover will be on this very right panel. Just think of it as when it's printed out, there'll be folds here. So of course, you want it to open up in this fashion. You want that to be the first panel. The back panel is what it is. If it's all folded up, if you flipped it around from front to back in your hand, the back panel would be shown here. So whatever information that you need on here, typically it's contact information, maybe the logo smaller on the back panel. The inside fold is as basically what it is. It's an inside fold. So when you open up that front cover, when you have the printed folded piece in your hand and you flip open the cover, that's the panel you see on the inside fold. That's the panel that you flip over. It's a little hard to understand sometimes. That's kind of why I'm doing this a visual way here so you guys can see it. On the inside, so this is the inside, so this will be printed front and back, but you have to design it in this way. You'll have the left panel on this side. You will have the center panel on this side, and then the right. So when you have it completely opened up in your hand, you open it up completely so it's flat on the inside. You will see the left panel, the center, and the right as shown. Okay? So that's kind of how that's laid out there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull in the images first. I think that's important to get the images down. You can set up a grid structure, if you want for your layout. Start planning out where you want everything to be and alignment. So maybe, I don't know, sometimes that's figured out too once you get the images in there. So let me take the rectangle frame tool here. So I want to put my image in here. And I am going to, let's see. I'm going to start here, even though I'm going to overlap, and I'm going to do the bleed. I'm going to make sure that it's bleeding top, front, top, bottom, and right off of my page. Okay, I'm going to end here just because I'm going to do kind of like a blend here. And I'll show you how to do that. Command D is file place. I'm going to find that image that I converted. So cover.tiff is exactly what I created to save out for this. Now notice if your image looks pixelated, you want to make sure you go up to view display performance and you're looking at high quality display so that that's pretty much what it will look like when printed. If you have typical display, it might be pixelated looking, so make sure you're checking that. Now when I place it in here, I'm going to double click on it with my mouse. And when I double click on it, this bounding box is going to turn red. I'm going to look up here on the presets. See in the little right arrow, it says scale X percentage and scale Y percentage. This is telling me what scale this is being placed in at, so it's 100%. I can downsize this. I can do like 80, just make sure it's the same number top and bottom so we're not distorting the image. But we can downsize that, and I just wanted to show you how to do that. So you don't want to go below 80 or above 120 here. Okay, so let me pull, and I can use with my red bounding box. I double clicked in there. That's how I get into that setting. I'm going to use my right and left arrows, top and bottom arrows to kind of position this where it needs to be. And just make sure, if it's bleeding off, you have it bleeding off properly. All the images are placed in there. You have enough image in there to place this in correctly here. So I'm going to pull this down. I'm going to go with a 1/3 aspect grid of the cover. So, the bottom part of this will be the image and the top part will be everything else. It's like kind of like a 1/3. I'm going to pull this over to the right so we can have a little bit of that. I'm going to bleed, I'm going to actually do like a little feather here. So I'm going to select my image one time, and then I'm going to use the gradient feather tool. Oops. And then I'm going to click a little bit to the right of my image where I want it to feather. And there we go. Nice little feather there. This is what it looks like if I were to turn off all the guides. Okay. Oops. All right. Save that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my rectangle frame tool. I'm going to do another image. It's going to be in the background in the back here. So I'm going to take that and put all the bleeds up until, let's see, probably this fold. Maybe just beyond the fold here. It's probably good right there. And I'm going to do a Command D. I'm going to find that other image, that kayak image. I think I put that on my desktop here. Hold on. Did I? Let's see. Oh no, I put it here, background. I'm going to take that converted file that I did and place it in the background here. And again, double click in there, 100%, 100%. We can downsize this if we need to. No smaller than 80%. Oops, make sure it's 80 and 80. Make sure those numbers are the same. And then, kind of slide it around with the hand or with your right and left arrows there. Pull this to the right a little bit because I have a lot of image left over here. All right, that looks pretty good. And then again, I'm going to select it one time, deselect, and then select it so that I can put a little feather on that. This time I'm going to switch this so that it's not white, but maybe darker. Actually, I'm going to keep that. I kind of like that. Oops. Just do like a little feather here. Sorry about the dogs in the neighborhood. Okay, so I'm going to do a little feather there. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler guides here, and I'm going to do, maybe not, maybe I'll stick to this here. I'm going to take my shape tool and I'm going to just draw these little blocks. And I'm going to make these little blocks, these are just shapes, white, fill it with white. And I'm going to go up here on my presets, see where it says 100 for transparency or opacity. I'm going to dial it down just a little bit, maybe 75, 80, depending. And I'm going to alt drag this over. So what I'm basically doing is creating, actually let me do 80, I think that might be better. I'm creating these blocks so that I can put the type over it. Let's do 85. So that I can put type over top and it be readable. Okay, so this is kind of where my type will be. Okay, go back to the front cover again. Let's place in the logo. So I'm going to take my rectangle frame tool and I'm going to do from one side of the bounding or margin to the other side. A little rectangle shaped box here. Command D. I'm going to place the logo in there. All right. Now this is the logo, Illustrator logo. What we probably should do is open it up in Illustrator first. Let me open up Illustrator. So go ahead, go back to Illustrator. Open up your Illustrator native file of the logo that you're deciding to do. So I'll show you how to do this here. This is what I mean about going back and forth between programs. It's just a necessity for sure. Okay, I'm going to open up that logo here. All right, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this out as a ping file. And the reason being is because I don't want this big white block to come in. So I'm going to do save as. This is the one I want to go with. And keep this in, let me put it on my desktop here. And throw up my folder. Oh, cancel that. Sorry. Go file, export as. So file, export, export as. I forgot I had to do it a different way. Links, ping image should be what you should use. Hit export and just pay attention to these specs here. You want 300 pixels per inch for your resolution. And you want transparent as your background color. This will ensure that you don't have any white block behind your logo. Okay, when you're done with that, just go back to InDesign and place it within this rectangle frame area. Let's see, desktop. I can't put it in my links folder here. Did I? I put it on my desktop. Trying to find the ping image. Maybe I did put it in here. Yep, I did. Okay, so find that ping image, place it in there. If it's too big, go up to, which probably will be, object on your menu bar, fitting, and fit frame proportionally. Well, actually fit content proportionally, sorry. That will fit it within this. And when you double click on it, you'll know it's not distorted. If you go up here to your X and Y coordinates, 55 is, these two numbers should be the same, okay? The next thing that I want to do is I want to open that doc that was given to you guys, that Word doc, because there's some type that needs to be pulled over. So I just open that up here. I'll show you what this looks like. And again, this is provided in the project specs. So this is all the required copy. And what's nice about this is you don't have to, these are the titles for where it should go. So don't copy that, but it'll give you an idea of what needs to be on there. So front cover says logo. And then of course you don't have to have that written in words, just by the logo itself. But you will have to copy this part, kayak tours, sales and service. So go ahead and copy, Command C, go back to your InDesign file, take the type tool and drag out a box to paste in there. I'm probably going to put the logo up here. Balance everything out here. And I'm going to choose, let's see, maybe futurable, condensed, maybe. Something similar to medium condensed, bold condensed. Something that would be similar to the, would unify with the actual logo. I'm going to do maybe this here. And you can break this up. You can do kayak tours, sales, and service could be 2 lines. If you want to get it bigger, you probably wouldn't go that big. It's kind of competing with the logo now. A little bit smaller. Let's do 28. Okay. And you can make this a certain color if you want to take from like the image itself, like that blue in there, that green, even from the logo itself as well. Take the little eyedropper tool, go ahead and sample the colors in there. And those colors really, the 3 colors I'm using are the blue in the logo, the gold, and then maybe like the red would be the 3 colors I'm going with for this. Okay, so let me show you what it looks like without all the guides here. So I want the logo to be, I can make it a little smaller, but I want it to be kind of have a nice separation between the logo and the headline there. All right, and then maybe below here, I have the contact information, which I don't know, does it have that? Contact information back. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna go back to that Word file here. And it says front or back. So you can save it for the back if you want, or you can put this on the front. I'm actually gonna leave it for the back cover. I think that would probably work best. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy that on the back cover. Okay, so then I'm gonna draw out some guides so that I know that I'm gonna start my copy a little bit in. You don't want to be right on the edge of your color bar here, your color block. So I'm drawing my guides in which I should put my text box so that I'm not butting it right up against the color block here. I see a lot of that happening sometimes with student work where they'll have the type kind of right up against this line here. Make sure you have some margin space in between here, okay? That just visually organizes your information a little bit better, makes it easier to read. Okay, so I'm going to take the type text tool, and right in that line, those lines that I just did, I'm going to draw a box so that I know I'm doing it right. Command V is paste. Okay, I'm going to do center alignment. And I'm going to change the font. You want to make sure the font is the same. Medium condensed. Between, I think 12 is probably a good size. Remember, this is something that you're going to be holding in your hand, you know, 7 to 8 inches from your face. So it doesn't have to be large. So I'm going to pull that down below there. Maybe give it that red color. Okay, and save. All right, inside fold. So let's go see what the copy is for the inside fold. Tour facts probably would be. Yeah, other required copy. So I would definitely copy all of this for maybe the, just highlight for the inside fold. Take the type tool, draw out your type box, and I'm just gonna paste the sections in here for now so that you can see how this is set up, and then I'll go back and paint and do kind of paragraph styles and all that good stuff. About us, you can have this on the back too. I'll copy that. Type tool. Paste that in there. I'll change the copy font and all that good stuff. I'm actually going to just copy this and pull this down. I'm just the background image here. I'm going to go and take off this gradient feather. So I'm going to go to Object, Effects, Gradient Feather, and I'm just going to uncheck this so I don't have that on the inside. I don't really need it. And then I'm going to go ahead and copy this. I'm going to do an Alt drag and just make sure it's consistent here. Whoops, not that, my copy box. There we go. And maybe on the inside, what you can do is maybe pull this all the way over so you don't have all the gaps in between. You could do that here too, but I'm going to do that separate so it looks a little different. And then on the inside, let's open up my Word file here. Use the copy that hasn't been used, so Custom Adventures. We go maybe on that first panel, so copy. Taking a type tool, and actually to draw my little guides here so I know where to go. Got to do that. So where I'm not designing right on the edge, again. Oh, this one. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to take my type tool, go inside those lines that I just made. Oops. Type tool, and then paste what I just copied for the left side. And then go back to get the rest of the copy here. So yeah, there's a lot of back and forth with this, but you know, once you kind of get the hang of it, it's not too hard. Stop and watching. Okay, I'm gonna copy that. This will go on this side, and you can shift things around depending on what makes sense. Take the type tool. Paste that in there. Okay. And what we can do is we'll just make another type box, and we're going to link these two. Okay, so just click on this link down here at the very bottom right. It's a little red box saying, hey, we have more copy in here, but it's not showing because our frame isn't big enough. So click on that little red box and then click on the linked box here. So whenever you shift this type, it goes into this box. So that's a linked box right there. Okay. So now that I have the copy in there, let's go ahead and start playing around with the paragraph styles. So paragraph styles are, and this is how you'll see them here, what you'll want to do is go to your type in tables, actually styles, and you'll want to choose paragraph styles. Now, paragraph styles are a way to set your styles easily without having to go back and change all your type. It's great for projects like this so that you're saving time. So paragraph styles, we're going to do, here's your paragraph style panel. I don't know why is this so big here? Hold on. Pull this up. So let's set up your body copy paragraph style. So go ahead and click. There's always a default basic paragraph, but we want to do new paragraph style. So go ahead and click on that little upper corner lines option, your presets. Now we're going to name this body copy. So go ahead and name it body copy. It's based on, and just leave all this information the same. Go to your left side of the panel here of your specs, of your presets, and go to basic color character format. So we're going to change this to the font that we want this to be in. Now I can change this to be Futura if I want, if I think that's readable. I've been using Futura. I would say don't go above 12 point. Stay between 10, 11, 12 for your body copy. I'm going to do 14 and see what this looks like. And click OK. So I'm changing the type, point size, and the leading. So how do I apply this? I have it in here now. It says body copy. Well, I have to select all on my copy and then click right on body copy, and that changes it. So select all, body copy. That's how you set your paragraph styles, so that they're all consistently the same. Now I can go back and edit that. Say if I, maybe I want it to be sans serif, I can double click on that layer and then go to basic character formats and change this to times. Now watch what happens when I click the preview. Look at my document. Changes it to times. I'm going to cancel that because I want the other one. And then now I'm going to do another paragraph style. I'm going to do one that's for the subhead. So new paragraph style. I'm going to name the subhead. Back to paragraph, basic character format. And I'm going to do a bold condensed. And I'm going to make it slightly bigger, so maybe a 14. Okay, and then when I'm ready to apply it, let's go to this About Us. I'll just select what I want it to apply it to, so just About Us, and then click Subhead. You can also change the color if you want, so we can go back and double click on there. The character color, we can make this like red if you want, or whatever color you choose. Okay, whatever color you choose and you change it to, that's what it will be. So go ahead and make this so that it's consistent throughout here. This would be treated differently because these are 3 categories. So let's do a category in paragraph style. Categories. So it should be treated a little bit differently. Let's do medium condensed. We'll keep it at 11 point. We just want it to be a little bit bold. So let's just do bold. And character color should be black. Okay. Because it's not really a subhead, it's a category. So let's go ahead and treat that a little differently. Okay. Put a little space in there. And again, this is subhead, and then these would be categories. So it's pretty easy to change everything like that. That's the idea behind paragraph styles. Let me see if I make sure all of this is set to where it needs to be here. Hold on. Some of the spaces you need to put in there. Just do a return, or there's no returns here. Okay, so let's go back to the front again. The cover looks good. There's not a lot of room for the contact information, so maybe I will shift this over to the right and then try to make it work in here. If I shift it over to the right and try to make it work, I'm going to align it to the very bottom here. Maybe make it a little bit bigger. What is this set to? 12. Let's make it 14 because it is contact information. And let's put a color block behind here. Let me paste this in. Maybe the same as this, so that's consistent. Object, arrange, bring to front. So I'm just making sure everything's aligned properly. There we go. Pull this up so it's equal on all sides. There we go. Let's see what that looks like. Not bad. So it's aligned at the bottom baseline, the same style, everything looks good. Keep it consistent. Now I can pull this down and hopefully have room. There we go. Okay. I'll put a space in here too. So there might be spaces that you guys are doing for sure. So just pay attention to that. Pay attention to any weird hyphens, or like in this instance, there's a widow, so I might go right before the last word in the second sentence. Click right before that word and do a shift return. And that just kind of pulls that down. I'm going to do again here so that it's a nice rag here and you're not breaking in a weird way. I'm going to do a list. I'm going to do a new paragraph style. I'm going to name this list because I want it to be similar to what we were just doing, the bold. But I want my leading to be a little wider. So I'm going to do 18. So I'll show you what I mean. I want this to be bold, but maybe just spaced out a little differently. There we go. Okay. I'm going to bump that down here. What should I bring my tour? Water, glasses, hat, footwear. Tour facts should be a subhead. There we go. I'm going to make my list a little smaller. Let's do 10 points height. With 16-point leading. That'll bring everything up a little bit. So I'm just kind of playing around with the leading here. Make it work. All right, there we go, 14. And it changes everything that's set to it. Oh, you know what? This is a space here I can get rid of here. That's good. That looks pretty good. All right, so just look for any weird hyphens, fix anything that doesn't look good. I'm gonna select this and change my tracking. Try to pull that up a little bit. That's not gonna work. So that's probably okay here. Let's do return shift there. I'm just kind of looking at my all of my stuff here and fixing it based on what I see. All right, so that's kind of how you would work with paragraph styles, okay? And just makes it nice so that you're not repeating certain things over and over again. Notice how my type boxes are very aligned. You know, I'm starting up here where it's aligned, although I don't have my baselines aligned, so I'm going to change that. Okay, so how you would change that is body copy, just double click on the body copy, and what we want to set, paragraph rules. Okay, we're going to have to set this in a different way. Select your body copy with your type tool, and then go to your paragraph panel, and we want to set the very bottom here to align to baseline. Now this is going to change things. You might need to go back to your body copy and change the size of your point size. But this will also allow everything to be aligned together. You'll just need to go back and relist everything. That's how you would align your baselines, okay? I'm going to go back because I want to speed this up. We're a little bit almost out of time here, so I want to speed this up a little bit. All right, so on the inside, what you can do is bring in more pictures if you want. Just make sure that they're converted properly. In this case, maybe because I have some room here, I can draw a guide to say, okay, I want this to go down to 2 for my images. I want it to be 2 inches high, and then I draw another line to indicate where I want my copy to start. Okay, so I'm going to pull this down so it's consistent. Okay, so maybe and then I can do an alt drag. Just keep it. You want to make sure that you're keeping your boxes consistently the same size across the board. So I'm just doing an alt drag. Oops. And then what you can do is import the images you think would work best in here. You don't have to do it this way. This is just something I decided to do. And you might want to, read through the information so that you're providing the proper imagery with this. That's cute. Let's do this one. Go to Object, Fitting, Fit Custom Frame. Actually, we're going to go to Fill Frame Proportionally. And then this one is kind of cool because it goes with the whole whale watching thing. So maybe this bumps to the side. And I'm just adjusting things based on what I see here. Trying to balance everything out here. For some reason this is okay. There we go. I want this baseline to be on this baseline, and then I'll just kind of fix this. So my middle image is a little bit bigger, and that kind of helps balance this out. A little bit. Maybe it's, actually, you know what I can do? Pull this up so this balances here. Here we go. That kind of works a little bit better there. So I have kind of like a little intro here. I'm going to pull this down a little bit more though, so we can utilize a little bit more space. This line. So, it's just a lot of tweaking, seeing what works for your space and gridding it out so that you know that it's working, it's consistent, your elements are working for you within this space. See how that kind of shifted. I kind of made it balance a little bit better on this side and this side so that I don't have big gaps. There might be a gap here, and that's okay. Because it's in the middle, it's a little different. Let's see if I can pull this down a little bit more. Maybe on. There we go. So play around with it. You know, do what you think looks good. Should be a space after this, I think. That looks pretty good. And make it work for your brochure. Just bumping things down. A shift return is a soft return that you can do before, you know, when you bump words down to the next sentence. It's kind of what you do here. Okay. So we pretty much have everything set. Looks pretty good. You can make certain, you know, maybe I can make this more like a bold, certain things more bold, and kind of set up a paragraph style for that too. You might want to print it out and see what it looks like if you have a printer at home. But for the most part, that's pretty much what you guys will be doing. Okay, so let's go ahead and make this ready for packaging. So the last bit of this, you will be exporting this file as a press quality PDF, okay? So you're gonna go up to File, PDF Presets, Press Quality. I'm gonna save it to my desktop. In this export Adobe PDF presets, you want to make sure that you're doing all pages. Everything looks good as far as what I have here. Compression, this looks good. Marks and bleeds. What you want to do is you want to make sure your bleed marks and your crop marks are checked. What else does it say here? Package. Crop marks and bleeds. Place the press ready PDF into the package folder. Everything else, you just need crop marks and bleeds, so just check mark those two. Everything else is set to go. Okay, so click export. It might take a little while for it to export as a folder on your desktop or wherever you're saving it to. Just kind of give you a heads up. Oh, I'm going to do a new folder. I'm going to put it in my new folder. That way I kind of know where everything's going here. Sorry about that, guys. Just make sure your props and bleeds are checked. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go up to File, Package. We're going to package everything in here. If there's any links that need to be looked at or color space, right here we have a little error here. Links and images, some links found, 3 use RGB color space. Okay, so what we need to do is find which ones are RGB. So we go to the links and images, and it looks like some of these are RGB, so we need to go back and change those. So the little ones that I added in there are RGB, so I have to go back and open them up in Photoshop. That's why that error is coming up. So if you see that error, that's something that you need to change. So these were good. We need to change them to TIFFs too. So this one, so 5, 1, and 4. So I'm going to just choose all those and open. In Photoshop. Okay, in Photoshop, again, go up to image mode, switch to CMYK, check the image size out. Ah, this is 200. We want this to be 300. Let's change it to 300. Resample image, click OK. Then we're going to save this as a TIFF file. Same thing here. Color, image mode, CMYK, click OK. Image size, I want this to say 300, click OK. Save as TIFF. One more. Image mode, CMYK, click OK. Image size, 300, everything looks good. So I just need to save it out as a TIFF file. Okay. Go back to your InDesign file. We're just going to swap these out. So we're just going to do Command D. And find my TIFF files here. There we go. All right, and then the last one, I'm just replacing these in here. It goes here, that looks good. So now when I save it, and then I go up to File Package again, oh, there's one in there. What did I miss? Color 2. Oh, the logo. Okay, that needs to be changed out. So let me go back to Illustrator. Let's go ahead and open that logo up. Logo is an RGB still, so we got to go back to the logo. Go to, oh, it's CMYK. Maybe because it's exporting as a ping file, it's doing that. Huh. Yeah, that's weird. Okay. Well, it should be CMYK. I'm not sure if there's maybe a logo in here that's not showing. Let me see where my links are. Where's this at? That's what it's showing. Huh, interesting. All right. Okay, so just be aware, if you're putting the ping in here, it's probably gonna, you might have an issue when you package. Just kind of ignore it for now. We'll figure it out here. But pretty much that's all that you're gonna deal with in terms of maybe a possible issue, because it's a ping file. I'm not sure if it just automatically creates an RGB conversion there, even though it's in CMYK in the actual Illustrator file. But go ahead and go File Package. We'll kind of oversee that. Package here. Click OK. Make sure that all of these are checked. So you want copy fonts, copy linked images. You want to include the PDF. You want press quality to be selected, and package. And this is kind of what you'll be submitting for your You won't have to create a separate PDF to put into this folder if you check mark that press quality PDF at that point. So you're just going to have one folder that you're submitting, and you can zip that folder, and I'll show you how to do that. Now this packaging might take a little while here because there's a lot of stuff in there. Let me share my desktop. Sorry if it's a little messy here. So this is the folder here that I just created. If I double click on that folder, this is that package folder I just did. This is what you'll see inside. So you'll see your InDesign file. I have it open, that's why you see this copy up here. Here's the print PDF. You might want to open that up just to see what it looks like. Press quality PDF, I should say. Just make sure you're choosing that option, press quality PDF, and that you're showing the bleeds and all that good stuff. You can open it up. I'm double clicking on it, but it should have your fonts and your links as well in that folder. So open up your PDF that you created when you packaged this. Just take a look at it, make sure everything looks good. Okay, this looks pretty good. Let me try to zoom out here. It's taking forever. That's the front, that's the back. It looks pretty good. So I'm good to go. So go back to your folder. Let me put this out of here. And we're gonna zip it. We're gonna condense this folder so you can just submit one file for your final assignment 3. So you're going to click on it if you're on a Mac, and you're going to click on the folder and then hold down Control and click right over top. And you're going to choose compress this folder. So this is what you'll be submitting for your final submission. And then when I double click on that, I'll be able to look into this folder. Okay, so it might take a while for it to zip. Mine's taking a little while, as you can see. But once it's done, that's when you can submit it. And that's for your assignment 3. So hopefully you guys can see what I just did and try to emulate. Maybe not, I don't want you guys to replicate what I did, but at least learn from my steps to go forward here. All right, the next assignment that you guys will be working on, it's pretty easy and self-explanatory. You will be creating a sign for assessment 3 for the front of the Aqua Excursions building. This sign will be produced from cut vinyl on plastic and then put over lights so it will be easily seen at night. Since the media is cut vinyl, no gradients or images can be used, and all artwork must be vector art. You may use 2 spot colors only, and remember, black is a color. You'll be displaying the use of the following. So the finished sign will be 4 feet by 10 feet, but what you're going to do is you're going to scale that down. So 1 foot equals 1 inch. So it'll be 4 inches by 10 inches is the specs that you'll be doing. Utilize the 2 spot color versions of your logo that matches your campaign components. Utilize only those 2 colors on the sign artwork. Also utilize the Aqua Adventures tag, so kayak tours, sales, and services, and the website should be on there. Be sure to outline all fonts utilized and keep a version without the fonts outlined in case there are revisions. And then you're going to name it as such. So let me open up, you're going to go into Illustrator for this, and I'm going to open up a finished version because we're running out of time here. So you're going to go into Illustrator, and you're going to set your file up to be 4 inches by 10 inches. And it's going to be pretty simple. You're not going to be adding imagery in here or anything like that. And what you're seeing here is a finished version here. So as you can see, it's 10 inches by 4. So you'll just go File, New when you start this, because I didn't start from scratch. In Illustrator, when this comes up, I don't know why it's taking so long. And then what you're going to do is on the right hand side here, you're going to choose your 10 inches, make sure it says inches, by 4 inches, and click OK. This is basically what you're seeing here. You're going to take these words, kayak tours, sales, and service, and this is in the specs, and you want that to be in there. You're going to use the logo that you decided to use, the 2-color, and place that in there. Make sure it's centered. Pull this down a little bit. Probably make this a little smaller here. It's about 30, 24, just so it's a little space in between the logo and the actual information. That looks pretty good. And then you want to outline your type and your logo. So just do a select all. I think the logo is already outlined, so you're good with that. It's just the type here that needs to be changed. Actually, let me make this a little bit. I should probably have this in the Futura that I did. Make it consistent. Let's do maybe this one will be medium condensed and the other one will be bold. And then maybe this one will be a little bit bigger. There we go. That kind of works. Some variations there. Okay. When I'm ready to save this, let me hit save. And I'm doing it all in the 2 colors. Should only be the 2 colors. Make sure it's readable. Let's go into assignment here. Give me 1 second. I'm reading the specs from assessment 3. Make sure I hit everything here that you guys need to know. We're kind of running out of time, so I want to wrap it up. This is a pretty simple project. Just read the directions and go through it. Okay. Oh, outline fonts, that's right. So you're going to select that font that you put in there, the type in there. You're going to go up to type, and you're going to create outlines. But before you do that, you want to save a variation that you can go back and change if you need to. So I'll do a save as, and I'll name this one outlines. That way, because you won't be able to change that once you save it and go out, it won't be able to be changed. Okay, and then save it as an AI file, and then what you're going to do is save it as a PDF. Okay, and then that's pretty much it. You'll upload that to your assessment 3 area. All right, so that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I'm running a little bit over time here, so I'm going to wrap it up. Again, I'll be here tomorrow night for the multi-session from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Mountain Time. So if you want to come in, if you have any questions, I'll be there. All right, guys, have a great day.